Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made this child's bookcase. It's a super easy and fun build. And when I sketched this up, I thought it was going to be cute, but it is adorable. And it's going to be even cuter than I thought once I used this unicorn spit stain on it. First time I've ever used that. This is going to be fun. Let's get to it. I am providing plans for this, and you can find those at thewebranch.com and then click on downloads, and you'll be able to download a PDF version of the plans for this. I'm going to start by cutting the, at least rough cutting the trim that I need later on. My poplar boards were pretty cupped because I accidentally left them out in the rain. So what I'm doing here is I'm cutting these wide poplar boards into the thin trim strips that they're going to be, so that I don't have to plane off or joint off too much in order to get them flat and straight. The two front rails, top and bottom, on the front of this bookcase are going to have a curved cut at the bottom. So what I'm doing here is I'm cutting a thin strip that I can use to draw that bend or that curve in those rails. Now to make this curve, I'm just going to put 2 screws in each of the bottom corners of these rails where there's just enough meat for those screws to hold without cracking my poplar. And then I'm going to take that thin strip I made and pull it towards a mark I made 3/4 of an inch up in the center, and then I'm going to draw my curve. With the curve drawn on both my top and bottom rails, I'll just head to the bandsaw and rough cut them here. Afterwards, I'll clean them up on my shaping sander. Next, I'm going to cut my panels. If you refer to the plans that I've provided you, I laid out the panels in a way that will waste the least amount of plywood off your 3/4 inch sheet. So please take a look at the plans for this and use those drawings. Okay, so I've got all my panels cut, and you should too. If you don't have your panels cut and you don't have the plans, make sure you get the plans. These are on thewebranch.com, and click on downloads, and you can get them there for free. So before I start assembling this, I know that I need pocket holes in both sides and the front, so I can attach the face frame later, as well as pocket holes in the top of the sides where we're going to attach the top at the last step. Now, if you're going to go with all pocket hole joinery here, you're also going to want to put pocket holes up and down each side of the back, and put them on the back side, obviously, so you can't see them from the front. I'm going to butt joint the back to the sides, and then I'm going to butt joint the bottom to the carcass. So I think that probably to hold the face frame on, I'm just going to put some pocket holes every 4 or 5 inches, and I want to make sure they're kind of even as I go. So I've got both boards here, both sides together, and I'm just going to mark here on each one. I'm just going to go again every 4 or 5 inches and mark where I want these pocket holes to be. I'll sand this off later. And then I'm going to go ahead and mark the top too. Now the top's not quite as important because we are going to not see that. Okay, but I'll just go ahead and mark those that I want, 4 of them. So I'm going to put 4 on the top of these sides, and then in the back I'm also going to put 4 pocket holes, and I'm going to do these on the back side. No, you know what? I think I'll do these on the inside, because we're going to have this piece of trim. This is a very small bookcase, and we're going to have this piece of trim in the front underneath the top it's going to block you from seeing those pocket holes from the inside. So I'll go ahead and do that. The other thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm going to set this up for adjustable shelves, and I've got my Craig shelf pin jig here that I'm going to use for that. Just make sure that you're starting at the same place. If you're not doing holes all the way up, make sure your bottoms are together, your tops are together, so you don't end up with a mismatch later. This jig, this shelf pin jig, really handy jig to have. However, when you order it, make sure that you're getting the right one, or the one that you want. I got the 5mm. I wanted the 1/4, but I accidentally got the 5mm. So this huge bucket of shelf pins that I have is basically useless. But let's go ahead and I think I'll start by drilling these shelf pin holes. Now, in order to space these, you can use this left-hand side, which they're in about 1.5 inches, or you could use the right-hand side if you wanted to. I'm going to go along this left-hand side, and I'm going to start basically here at the very bottom, and I'll make sure that I'm aligned here and aligned at the top. And I've got the wrong bit on here. The shelf pin jig comes with this stepped drill bit. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to drill my pins here. Now, to hold this in place, I could put this little placeholder here that comes with the jig, slide that on, and now I can drill in the rest of these. And I'm just going to go all the way up with it, I think, on this. I'll reset my positioning pin and start again. All right, now I've got my shelf pin holes drilled. These are going to be the tops, so these are the ones that I want to install or put some pocket holes in. So let's go ahead and do that. I've got my trusty K4 here. This one's not available anymore from Craig. It is my favorite version of their pocket hole jig. The new one that they have is not as good in my own personal opinion. I almost did that backwards. I don't like it as much as I like my K4, but it's still an okay machine. I use it. I'll show you that one in just a minute. These are the pocket holes that are going to hold on our top. So these will be on the underside of the top. Here's the newer model, 700, I think it is. Like I said, I don't love it as much as the K4, but it does work. This one's just got a little different of a clamping mechanism. It doesn't clamp it as hard as my K4 does, but honestly, it's still a great machine. I don't know, I'm not in love with it, but it does work. All right, so this is what your sides should look like. You should have pocket holes at the top that are gonna hold down the top when we attach it. And then you've got your shelf pins here for the shelving units that we're gonna put in later. Just a quick note on these shelf pins. Remember I told you use either side of this. I wasn't thinking because I forgot that I'm going to butt the sides to the back. So these shelf pins here, once I put the back on, they're gonna be pretty close to the back of this, which will make it a little difficult for you to get your hands in there, to get those pins in there. So that's, for my next one, I'll remember that. So maybe I would have done one of these on the close side, and then the ones that are gonna go on the back, I would have done those a little farther in, but it is what it is. I don't want to disturb, I need some pocket holes in the front of this so that it'll hold on our face frame, but I don't want to disturb these shelf pins that I put in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark these in between these shelf pin holes so that I don't cut into them. And I'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, Okay, if you're making yours with all pocket holes, you're going to want some pocket holes in the back to hold it to the sides, and the top to hold the top on. If you're going to butt joint it like I'm doing, then we're just going to put them in the top on the inside to hold the top on. All right. So hopefully, what you should have is 3 pieces that look like this. I've basically got a row of pocket holes going around the entire outside here. This whole thing is going to fold up just like this, okay? So I'm ready to assemble, but first I'm going to sand the inside of these just because it's going to be a pain later if I forget and I wait till later. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start fitting this thing up. So I'm going to pull, this should be your back, okay? And this will be the right side. And all I'm going to do, I like to keep this simple, and I just perfect from corner to corner. That way I usually don't have to worry. My saw is really accurate. I've got it dialed in really well. So if I just perfect one corner at a time, then by the time it's all said and done, I should be perfectly square. So I'll just align this corner and I'm going to brad nail it. Forgot my glue. I'm going to run just a little bead of glue. This is the back panel. Don't overdo it. We are going to use a gel stain. Put your glue underneath here for later. Just slightly. Now I'll go ahead and perfect this corner up here. Once you got your corner perfect, just brad nail it. Then we'll come down to the bottom side. Same thing. There's that. I'm going to bead a glue up this side as well. Now I'm just going to perfect this top corner. And then the bottom. Now I've got my sides. All right, now I've got my sides brad nailed to my back. So I'm just going to go ahead and anchor these down. I'm going to countersink for one screw at each end for now. And then I've got these type 8 or number 8 type 17 wood screws here. These are deep thread. I love them. There's that side. I'm only putting in 2, just in case I realize that I have messed something up. Then it will be a little easier to take apart. Countersink bit has been sharper. All right, so with 2 screws in it, it's pretty sturdy already. I'm gonna wait to put in the rest until the end. But remember, this is our top with all the pocket holes along the inside, and this is gonna be our bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and take our bottom here. And just give it a little dab of glue. And same thing. Again, I'm going to perfect one corner at a time. So I'm just going to come to this back corner here. Make sure that's exactly where I want it. And it is. Now I can come to this opposite side here, or the front. Make sure that's exactly where I want it. Make sure you get your fingers out of the way. Shot myself more times than I could admit. Now I'm going to come to this back corner, do the same thing. Just perfect this. And there it is. And then finally, this last corner here. Nice and flush. And brad nail that one in. This is now the carcass, the meat and potatoes really of this bookshelf. Now I'm just going to go around. I'll get myself a better countersink bit. All right, so now I'm just going to finish putting screws. I'm going to put screws into the bottom, from the bottom into the sides and back, and then finish up the screws that I was putting on the sides here. All right, I'm just going to take a damp rag and go here in my joints or my seams and make sure that I didn't get any extra glue in here. That will prevent the stain from taking. And there we have basically the carcass of the bookcase. All right, so I've got the trim that I made up earlier. It's just 2 1/4 inch wide, 3/4 inch thick poplar that I planed. Well, it was 4/4 poplar that I planed down to 3/4 inch, and then it's going to go here. I got a 3-inch overhang here at the bottom to provide for a little distance on the legs. What are going to be the legs? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start. I always start in the back, putting my trim on. And I'm just going to brad nail this on. I've got glue and then brad nails. So I'll even it up. Just use another one of these. And same concept. I'm just going to even up one side here. I'm going to put that brad kind of close to the top. And then another one here at the bottom. And then one right in the center here. I'm going to attach this one the same way. And just make sure that we're going to make this even with the edge of this side here, because we're going to have another piece of trim that goes here on the front. All right? And generally what I'd like to do is just kind of push it on here and then just kind of smear it around. And then same deal. I'm going to use a piece of this poplar here. I'm going to perfect this top here. Is it still recording?
16 minutes.
Same thing on the bottom. One in the middle. Now you don't want to do the front yet. And tip it over and do this other side. Same way. All right, and there we've got kind of the beginnings of the trim on our bookcase. Now I'm going to install the front trim, but I don't want to use brad nails up here. And I'm going to attach these with pocket hole screws from the inside. So I'm going to put my glue here on this face. Not a ton. And then I'll take my trim and once again just perfect each one of these corners. You can always sand the bottoms if I need to. Okay, that's where I want it. You don't need to be perfect on the bottom right now, but you need to be close. So I'm just going to come in here and I anchor down this very top pilot. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to anchor down this very top pocket hole screw here. Now I'm gonna do the same thing on the bottom. I'll get this bottom perfect. Go ahead and clamp it in. And anchor that on with your pocket hole screw. Now we can fill the rest. And if we've got a little bow in our trim material, which I do, I can just use a clamp to correct this. You can't see this on the camera, but this piece of poplar here is bowed out here in the center just a little bit, so I want to pull it in. I'm good at the top and bottom, but just right here, I'm a little bowed out. So to fix that, all I'm going to do is I'm going to put a block back here, and I'm going to clamp the block, and then I'm going to clamp the piece of poplar that's bowed. And I'm just going to tighten until I feel this thing even out. Perfect. Now I can anchor in all the rest of these. There's one side of my front trim. I'll just repeat this on the other side. All right, so I've got a little gap over here in my trim that I wasn't happy with. It's minuscule, I mean, barely noticeable, but enough for me. So I'm going to clamp this up and let this dry for a minute, let that glue dry. In the meantime, I have what's going to be the shelves and the top. And the shelves are, only one side of the shelves are going to be seen. Let's call it this side. But I don't want this ugly plywood front, so we're going to go ahead and edge band this, and we're going to edge band the entire top. I'm not going to fire up my edge bander for this. I think I'm just going to use my iron and iron-on edge banding that you can get at your local home improvement store or Amazon. It's cheaper on Amazon. Unless you do a whole lot of pieces, you don't need a machine. I don't fire up my machine unless I've got at least 5, 6 full all the way around to do, then I'll fire it up. But for this, this is going to be quick just with an iron. Okay, this is birch edge banding and birch plywood, just to keep it all consistent. To put this edge banding on here, I've got a smoother edge here. I'm going to just sand this edge just a little bit to get off any of these little furries or anything that might get in the way of this edge banding. And then all you're going to do is just give yourself a 1/4 inch room, maybe 1/2 inch on one side, and then over here you just snap it. Kind of center it right on that panel. I've got my iron set, this $10 iron I got from Walmart when I first moved to San Angelo, because all my tools were back in El Paso. Great little $10 iron, the only thing it doesn't have an auto shut off. And trust me, that's something I wish I had. I leave it on all the time. Just gonna go over this a few times, get it nice and hot. I've got the iron on the hottest setting. And then I'm just gonna use a block here and just gonna push this down, and then also on the edges to make sure I've got a nice, good seal. I'm not gonna mess with that anymore for the moment. I'll come on to the next one. Same thing. All right, then we're going to do the top and go all the way around the top. I wasn't thinking when I made the cut for this top. If you'll see, I got my grain pattern going this way. I don't generally like to do that. I like my grain going along the long edge, but this is kind of an example piece anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to do this side, and then I'm going to do the opposite side, because you want these to have a little chance to cool before you start working them, before you start clipping them and trimming the edges off. Because if they're still warm, you do risk peeling this edge banding off or creating air pockets underneath it, which will make it fail. So I'll do that one, flip it, do this side. And I'll set that one to cool. These should be cool enough to work now. And so you can get yourself one of these trimmers. The ones they have at the big box store or at your home improvement store are not the great ones, are not that great. Get this one off of Amazon. It rocks. If I can remember, I'll put a link to it in the description. Great edge bander. Come over here and just clean up where you trimmed it off. And then this thing you're just going to pinch and pull. And there you go. No ugly plywood front. That's going to get sanded, of course. Everything's going to get sanded. Trim off the ends. I'm just pushing the sander straight onto it very lightly. Not going back and forth because I don't want to peel that edge banding off. And then again, just a little light pressure. And we'll pull that just like so. Okay, so in your plans, or in the plans I've given you, I've had you cut this trim just about 1/4 of an inch too long because we're going to sneak up on the fit. to put in these rails in the top and bottom. The rails in the front and are on the sides, I should say, both top and bottom are going to be rectangular, going to be squared. They're not going to have, in other words, they're not going to have a bow at the bottom, not on the sides. On the front, we are. We're going to have a bow on the top and the bottom one, and the top rail is going to be a bit wider than the bottom rail. Again, just trying to sneak up on a tight fit there. Perfect. When you're sneaking up on a tight fit like this on your miter saw, if you pull the blade down and you put the piece of wood against it, don't push too hard. Just put it against it, lift the blade back up and run it. You'll shave off just a hair. And you can do that repeatedly until your thing fits here. So I'm just going to apply some glue. This isn't going to see a whole lot of action right here, these trim pieces, so I'm not too terribly worried about them. You could always, I don't like this other side. You could always pocket hole these from the back. You could use any other form of joinery on here if you were so inclined. But I'm going to come in here and just, again, line it up with the bottom edge of that ply, and then I'm going to come up just about 1/8 of an inch to cover that seam. All right, so now all we've got left to put on is this trim. So I've got this piece of bottom trim here that's going to go on like so, and I don't have a whole lot of room down there. But I think I'm going to try and put a pocket hole in here so I can secure it to this one. And then on this top piece here, we are definitely going to need some pocket holes. But I have nothing, I have no meat to attach this to anywhere, and I'm not going to just rely on glue. So we will put some pocket holes in this one. All right, there's our bottom. Then our top's going to go up here. Let's put some pocket holes in it. And there is the carcass, at least, for our bookcase. Still a lot of work to do, so let's keep going. All right, so I'm putting in my shelves, and I've got, the shelf pins I've got are, these fit perfectly, by the way, but the shelf pins that I have, I'm using the L-shaped shelf pins that have the hole at the bottom. That way I can screw them in and have the shelves stationary. I don't want these falling out and having a kid choke on them. But there's that upper part of the flange on the L is a little thicker than I accommodated for. So I'm just going to take about a 1/16 of an inch off the edge of each one of these shelves. All right, let's see if these fit a little better. There we go. Tight. And there we have basically the carcass is all done, at least being assembled. So now we're going to have to do a lot of sanding, filling, just perfecting this thing and making it presentable, and then we'll stain it. And I think I'm just going to shoot some polyacrylic on here because I have a special color that I've never used before that I'm going to use on this piece. So let's do that. Now, as I'm sanding this, you'll see that I'm going to be using some glue. I'm doing what is called, what some people refer to as glue sanding. And what I'm doing is I'm smashing some glue down in the bottom of these brad nail holes. And I don't want to fill the brad nail holes exactly. I just want some glue at the bottom of the brad nail hole, right up against that brad nail head. And then what I'm going to do is, as I'm sanding, I'm going to be creating sawdust, and I'm going to be jamming that sawdust into that brad nail crack or into that brad nail hole. Same goes for these little tiny hairline cracks that I might have on my trim. I've got one here. They're super tiny. I don't think you could probably even see them on camera, but they're big enough for me to notice. And I'm just going to do that little bit of glue sanding to perfectly fill those in. 100 grit sandpaper, it's going to take a while. We'll work our way up to 220, but here we go. All right, now I've sanded all my faces with 100 grit sandpaper. I got all the seams nice and smooth and glue sanded in the places where I need it, these little hairline cracks in the joints and whatnot. Now what I'm doing is I'm going over every single edge on this bookcase with some 220 sandpaper. And all I'm trying to do, I'm not trying to give this thing a round over, I'm just taking off that sharp corner that's there. Because that'll make it really uncomfortable to interact with as little arms are going in and out of this bookcase or people moving around. You want to make sure that you get every edge that little fingers could possibly come into contact with, both inside and out. And once I'm done easing all these edges, I'll go back over the entire thing again with 220 grit for a nice final sanding. I'm not going to make you guys watch me sand this whole unit, but I suppose if that's the kind of thing you're into, I do have the raw video, and if you email me, I'll send it to you, weirdo. All right, so I've just finished sanding this down all the way to 220. And this is the finished product. Basically, all I have to do now is stain it and seal it, but I'm not gonna do that in this video because I'm using a new product after talking to these guys in Oregon, I believe, called Unicorn Spit. And I got this, this gel stain from Unicorn Spit. It's a teal color, and apparently it's an 8-ounce bottle that you will dilute up to 50% if using on wood. I did try it on a scrap piece of wood, and it seems like we're going to have to go a little thicker than 50%. But it came out pretty cool on my scrap piece, enough that I think I want to try it on this bookcase. So that's going to be the next video of me finishing this bookcase with this Unicorn Spit gel stain and see how that goes. Now I haven't installed the top on this yet, obviously, but there it is. There's your finished product. When I drew this up, or when I sketched this up, I knew it was going to be kind of cute. I didn't know it was going to be this cute. This is an adorable little bookcase. And for a toddler or young child, I think it's going to be fantastic. Super sturdy. It probably weighs 45 pounds. All 3/4 inch ply, very strong, plenty of screws in this. Again, I have the plans available on thewebranch.com. If you click on downloads, it'll be there. I'm going to upload this video. And then while this video is uploading, hopefully I will get the plans uploaded as well. And so they'll be available when the video is available, hopefully. If not, give it a little while, a couple hours. I'm going to do it tonight. It'll be done tonight. But thanks for joining me on this build. I really appreciate it. I'm going to be spending the next month basically trying to create something new every day. I don't know if I'll make it every day, but I'm going to try. And for each of those things that I attempt to accomplish, I'm going to make plans, and I'm going to upload those plans for free for you guys. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you can get alerted when the next design comes out. Tomorrow, I think I'll be working on a coffee bar. I'm not sure yet, but we'll see. Anyways, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.